And so if we're taking an inventory or an assessment of our internal culture, what are the pros and cons of having an outsider's perspective in that process?
Well, pro, obviously, is that you're going to get somebody with a fresh set of eyes. One of the trickiest things about culture is that there's no way to take yourself outside of it if you happen to be someone who's living in it. You're the fish who's in the water. As you often say, it's easier to read the label from outside the bottle, right? So the example I always give is, hey, have you ever been to a country that is completely different from your own? And you look at it and say, whoa, the way people greet each other is so different here. Whoa, the way they eat dinner here is so different. And then you repeat that to those people. Like you say, wow, like I remember going to Brazil as a teenager and I was so impressed that meals were served collectively all the time. You've heard of churrasco, right? And this is a very, basic tradition in that part of the world where instead of getting a giant hunk of steak on your own plate and eating it until you explode, the chef sits at the grill and just keeps grilling meat all night and then cutting up it into little pieces and passing plates around, and you eat it with your fingers, and you're just passing plates around for hours. It's a totally communal eating experience. And I remember thinking to myself, why don't we do this? And it's reflective of a very different culture. But when I said that to them, they were like, what do you mean? We do this all the time. They don't even think about it. So that's the upside of having an outside perspective. The downside, of course, is the person from the outside doesn't necessarily know where to point their gaze. And that's where it's your job, like I was saying a little bit earlier, to know what is important in your organization and be able to start to look for where there might be misalignments. Because as the outsider, I'm not necessarily going to know what's important to the leadership. I'm not going to understand the mission from the outside. And you have to tell me, we are here because our founder started this organization 50 years ago and he got tired of seeing hungry people on the streets and he wanted to do something about it. And so this is why we do what we do. And then as the outsider, I can look around and say, oh yeah, you have some behaviors going on here that aren't really serving your mission. We should think about that. This will help me figure out what questions to ask. And so you really need both perspectives.